Yep, you read that right. It's not clickbait. It's not an April Fool's joke. Despite the upload date, the Magnum caught on fire. Kinda. About a week prior to this happening, I popped the hood to check on something completely unrelated and looked down at the alternator, and the little nut holding the charge wire onto the stud had a little red glowing spot right on top of it. It went away after a little bit, so I made sure to snug down the bolt so it wasn't grounding to itself, and went on about my day. Fast forward 1 week later, on my way to get some McDonald's, I watched my battery voltage drop from 14 to 13 to 12, all the way to 10 volts. I pulled over, I popped the hood, and before I knew it, the first 3 or 4 inches of charge wire burst into flames, quickly approaching on the spark plug wires, engine cover, and all the little accessories that are over there off to the side. Thinking on my feet, I grabbed my leftover coffee and dumped it on the fire to put it out. I popped the rear hatch and disconnected the battery before anything too crazy could happen. But of course, this wasn't just any old alternator wire that caught on fire. It's a fusible link. Now, the problem with the fusible link between the alternator and the starter is, number one, it is a discontinued part by Dodge, meaning they don't offer it anymore. And of course they had to change it for the new generation starting in 2013. And I've had far too much trouble with over-the-counter parts from places like O'Reilly's and AutoZone, as mentioned in these videos here. So the next best bet is the local pick and pull. So here I am at LKQ Pick Your Part. And problem number 2 is I decided to buy the station wagon they only made for 4 years. And they limited the production on the V8 models. And of course it's different between the V8 and the V6s. On top of all of that, none of my local pick and pulls have a Dodge Magnum. Meaning I have to look for all of my parts between Chrysler 300s and Chargers. Thank God for having a platform-based car, I guess. Aha! Eureka! Now the problem with this fusible link, this being the fuse part of it, is whoever decided to cut the front end of this thing off, rather than taking it apart like a human being, decided to sever the wire going to and from the alternator. I'll see if I can find one that's a little more intact, but if not, let's see if I can make this one work. And of course you've always got to look at the cool stuff on the front row. Here we got a 58 Edsel wagon, man. What are the odds? Pretty cool. You don't see these like in car shows, let alone in a frickin' pick and pull lot. Pretty sick. Now that we got our parts from LKQ, it's time for the disassembly. Starting by taking off the accessory belt, removing the upper radiator hose after draining the coolant, and removing the 3 bolts that hold the alternator to the side of the engine block. Now, after unplugging the battery voltage sensor, taking off what little bit of wire was left over, and skipping over about 15 minutes of me struggling to pull it out of the engine bay, I made some shocking discoveries along the way. Maybe. So the problem is, when it caught on fire, the nut welded itself to the bolt. And here, you can see the damage. Look at all of that. Toasty. So let's take this one to O'Reilly's and try to warranty it out, because it is less than a year old. Oh boy. Yeah, and you can't even turn that by hand. No bueno. So yeah, let's go warranty this out and then try and find a connector for this wire. But before we can continue, if you're enjoying this video, please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future uploads as well. And if you want to see more videos just like this one, consider becoming a channel member today, starting at the very, very low price of $1.99 a month. Starting at just under $2 a month, you can have access to things such as members-only videos, like this one that's being uploaded at the same time as the video you are watching right now, where I put brand new wheels on the Magnum, but you can only see it if you're a channel member, as well as members-only live streams, discounted merchandise, and the list goes on and on. Click the join button down below, or for you iPhone users, there is a link in my description, again, starting at just $1.99 a month. Thank you for listening, and on to the final issue with the fusible link. And the third and final problem with our fusible link, now that we have our eyelet crimped down on the end, and our abrasion wrap on the outside of it, is how are we going to install it? Because the fusible link is tied in with the rest of the wiring harness. So rather than cutting away at the loom, we are just going to tuck it underneath. That way it is out of the way of the exhaust. So what are we gonna do with the old fusible link? We're just gonna cut it and forget about it. For now, anyway. While it's out of the car, let's go ahead and get a good connection on this to hopefully avoid doing this in the future. All right, with our old fuse end cut off, as well as our super crispy alternator end, we've got the alternator down there, bolted all the way up, got our thermostat housing reconnected, as well as our mass airflow sensor we disconnected to get it out of the way. Reconnect the battery, and then we'll go underneath and zip tie together the new wire and try to get it tidied up a little bit, that way it's out of the way. Now with the coolant topped off and our battery reconnected, the last thing we have to do is start it. Now look at that, she runs. For now, until the next thing breaks. Let's go back inside and double check our battery voltage, make sure everything's squared away there. So we've just got to hop inside of the car and access our secret menu. Hold that for 5 seconds, and there it pops up. So we'll come to here, and we can see battery voltage 13.8. Much better than the 10 volts we had last time. Once again, please consider becoming a member by clicking the join button down below, or clicking the link that's in the description for all of you iPhone users. Starting at just $1.99 a month, you get all of the perks that I mentioned earlier, and you get funny stickers of me to show how long you've been a member, to show how long you've been showing your support. It helps me out a ton, helps support the channel, and helps me continue to recover from things like this when they happen. The Magnum's running like a champ. I wouldn't have it any other way. The battery voltage is holding just fine, and nothing else is caught on fire. It's not a very high bar, but it's a bar nonetheless, and so far we're surpassing it. And as always, if you found this video helpful, or at least entertaining, please be sure to drop a like and share it with your friends. If you consider subscribing, click over here. If you want to see what YouTube recommends you watch next, click over here. And as always, I look forward to seeing you guys next time.